Inside the Middle East, in association with Orascom Telecom. Orascom Telecom, giving the world a voice.
Hello and welcome to Inside the Middle East. Well, as you can easily see, we're not in the Middle East today. We're in Washington, D.C. Every few years, we take the show outside the region and try to find stories that give us a perspective of the Middle East from another part of the world. Ever since 9/11 and the Iraq War, since 2003, the relationship between America and the Arab and Muslim world has been very tense, with mistrust and suspicion from both sides. But one man says it doesn't have to be that way. He wants to build bridges between the two worlds with 21st century technology as well as good old-fashioned conversation. First stop, Georgetown University.
Check me out, y'all.
On the left, Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. On the right, the American University of Beirut in Lebanon.
Check me out, y'all.
And there's a quiet conversation taking place between the two colleges.
Did anybody feel that they had a particular agenda?
I realized that it was going to be really difficult to show the things the way I want.
I can understand living in the U.S. what it's like to deal with two political parties.
Separated by thousands of miles, East and West are talking. It's a project called Soliya, where students from all over the world debate politics and issues, but also discuss hobbies, family and friends in an online web forum.
Hope everyone's doing okay. I'll wait for the little bubble to rotate. Yes, okay.
I joined students in Washington, D.C. Hey, Shems, we're just checking that you can hear us. While Inside the Middle East producer Shems El-Wazir covered the Beirut end of this transcontinental online chat.
Okay, yes, I can hear you.
And from the get-go, Beirut student Tarek Tutujian makes the conversation interesting.
Even in Lebanon, we've got about slightly less than 1 million people who would like nothing better than to see Israel wiped off the face of the earth. And I guess that's the point of view that some people are missing. Because
from the U.S. side, 20-year-old Samir Kapadia talked of a video project.
I really learned a lot about the media and the way you can take footage and try to position it and angle it in the way that you see fit.
The goal of this experiment, getting young people from the U.S. and Arab worlds to put a human face on the other.
We live in a time where there's clearly a need for improved understanding.
And the president of this organization, who says he just wants people to talk, is 33-year-old Lucas Welch. He worked as a news producer in New York for years, but says 9/11 and the Iraq War and the growing animosity between the Arab world and the West gave him an idea.
At Soliya, we're really driven by a pretty simple belief that when it comes right down to it, people are people. And if you give people the opportunity to communicate in a constructive, safe environment, more often than not, they discover that our similarities vastly outnumber our differences.
2 days later, Israeli troops arrested 64 Hamas officials.
Part of the project, which is used within politics and diplomacy classes both in Beirut and Washington, requires students to piece together a 5-minute film on a sensitive subject. This year, Hamas's takeover of Gaza last summer.
But on June 14th, 2007, Hamas militants took forcible control of the Gaza Strip.
On the left, the way the event was presented by two Georgetown students, Dan Fishman and Sarah Orndorff.
Control of the Gaza Strip and earning the increased frustration of the West.
On the right, the same story, compiled with the same material by Beirut University's Noura Nader, with musical illustration chosen by her. Orndorff says there are differences in the way U.S.-based students and Middle Eastern students see the very same events.
And for them, it was much more emotional. There was a lot more music involved, a lot more, you would see scenes of military and hear gunfire and babies and injured people on the ground, things like that.
a process Nader messages about online. What was the hardest part about the process, asks one student. Working on the emotional footage, answers Noura. The class that integrates Soliya's experiment into its curriculum at Georgetown is taught by Professor Cynthia Schneider.
Let me hear from you how this week's Soliya sessions went. The good, the bad, the...
Two of the people who've taken her class in the past say the dialogue has changed the way they see the world. After the school year, Palestinian Muslim Hamad Hamad and a Jewish student of Iranian origin, Rod Soleimani, both 21, took a trip together to Israel and the West Bank.
For me, I felt like I had a lot of responsibility to debunk stereotypes and to change just people's very limited perceptions of what a Palestinian life was like.
It was humanizing the other. And I think without doing that, you can in effect justify your hate because you don't know what's on the other side.
Along with Jewish and Arab friends, they visited the disputed land. They describe it as a life-changing journey, adamant that the forces that unite them are stronger than those that could keep them apart. Coming up after the break, running for reconciliation. We take you to the Beirut Marathon. Stay with us.